Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final webinar of the day. This is concentrating on Plato's Career Pathways curriculum. Before we get started with the webinar itself, just like on all the other webinars, I'm going to share my screen so that you can see the link to our sign-up sheet. So if you will please go to that link, that tiny URL, sign in to the Plato Career Pathways session. I'll give you a few seconds to get that done. All right. And now I'm going to move the presenter over to Leslie Holland, who is from Edmentum, who will be providing our presentation today. So there we go. I have her screen up, and Leslie, you are welcome to take it away.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining me, and I'm sure it's been a long day with a lot of learning, so thank you for being patient and joining this session. Our session today is focusing on the career pathways, and my hope is that many of you may have encountered Plato in several other capacities, so I'm going to make just a few assumptions that you have some knowledge of what the solution is and basic functionality. Our focus is going to be with some of the career courses, but also that greater career pathway that you guys have access to. So the content that is in your library really is going to help you support the career pathways goal on several different levels, right? So we have, what does that learner need as their core foundational knowledge? And then the next tier is, how are we starting to build their career area literacy and their employability skills? And then the third layer being, well, how do we start giving them exposure to content that is really relevant to the career area of their choice? So for all of those, for foundational knowledge, into career area literacy and employability, and then into that really more in depth into that career pathway, those are all things that you can do. And I'm going to touch on each of them so that you have a sense of, well, where do I go for X and how actually could I blend all those together? So one of the things in your library I'm just going to start out with is a set of courses called ACT Workkeys. And hopefully you've been to browse curriculum, you've seen these in your library, you may or may not know what they are, but the ACT Workkeys and the college and the career readiness certificate are both sets of materials that are oriented to a particular goal, and Workkeys being one of them. And so you may have heard the term Workkeys, you may have had students that have gone and taken the Workkeys, the career readiness certificate test, but essentially it's a assessment that is looking for proficiency in a career pathway, or at least preparation for a career pathway. So what does that mean? Why is it on Plato? So what Workkeys does is they partner with ONET and to help build a profile of what a job would require as foundational skills. So instead of having to take that tool and then translate that and then go find the modules in Plato to actually put something together, because we've aligned content with the Workkeys categories, it gives us a really helpful starting place to build that career pathway, especially for foundational skills. So I'm going to go to a website that Workkeys hosts, which is profiles.keytrain.com. And if anybody needs that again or later, come and find me and I'll make sure you have that. But profiles.keytrain.com. And that page provides an index of the career that may be of sort of most popular, though it does pretty have a good coverage across pretty much all of the career clusters. So when you get to that page, it'll always have job title, career cluster, whatever filter you want to use. So for example, I chose hospitality and tourism and I clicked on search and it showed me these different occupations, both with their career cluster and with the title of that job. So you may have a more specific one you're looking for, or these are ways of looking at it more generally. But this is going to give us lots of different pieces of information. So we want to definitely make sure we're choosing something that's fairly close to our goal. So let's just say a travel agent. So I'm interested in that job. So, and I want to build a career pathway with maybe that as an end goal, or even more generally in the hospitality and tourism. And this could, for all the scenarios, you're looking at nursing, or you're looking at welding, or you're looking at CDL. I mean, whatever that pathway is. So same model given this scenario in this case. So this is the matrix for what the Department of Labor says this job area needs as minimum skills in applied math, reading for information, locating information, applied tech, business, writing, workplace, observation, and listening for understanding. Okay? So this is the core of what's needed, at least at the minimum level through a maximum level. So, okay, Leslie, well, I see this now. What does this mean? So because we have this piece of information, we can then go to our PLATO catalog and we can look at the same index by the levels, right? So on the chart a second ago, we saw applied at this, for this particular career track, I need to have at least a 4, probably a 5, right? To be equipped for that level, excuse me, for that pathway. So this looks familiar. In PLATO, it's organized 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so what could I do with this foundational piece? Well, I could assign in flex assignments a particular set of levels. I could assign the whole work keys applied math course, right? Plus humanity. Or I could put together a course that pulls together those pieces that this matrix recommends, both for applied math and on the other categories. Okay. So let me show you what that would look like. So I'm going to go within my courses area to my custom course builder, right? Because we have a design in mind. I know that I want for hospitality and tourism, using the scenario of a travel agent, that's the pathway I want students to kind of work towards. So I'm going to create a custom course, which is part of the courses area. And when I create a custom course, it's going to lay out for me on the left-hand side is the content that I could draw from. And on the right-hand side is what I want it to look like in presentation to the student. If you've done this before, it should look familiar to you. If you haven't, don't be scared. It's not as complex as it may appear because we have a mission already. The trick with using customization is know what you may want to build. Just have an idea. I want it to kind of look like this, and it's a lot easier than, okay, I'm just going to mess around and try to figure out something. So I'm going to set up a couple things here. The first is the material that I'm drawing from is a course. And on the right-hand side, it says, blah, 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 custom course. Well, that's not really what I want the end product to be called. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the little arrow here, and I'm going to rename this. Right? And this is just an example of what that could look like, right? This is what I want students to go for, and whatever labeling you choose, right? So this is the blank folder, binder, whatever you want to call it on the left. On the left is everything we can draw from. So we're going to draw from the ACT work keys applied math first, right? And that chart said between 4 and 5. So we want to include either up through or at least 4 and 5. The level 3 is going to be quite basic. And by the way, you can browse while you're in here and be like, I think, I would expect students may have this already, or they may not. And there is a crosswalk available from what does level 3 mean when it comes to work keys, and what does that mean like with table process. But I'm going to pretend that we have that, or that's something that you guys will have access to. So I'm going to just drag over 4 and 5 because I believe that most of my students will have at least level 3, but they may not have level 4 and 5. Okay, so the matrix said I need at least 4 and 5, so I'm pulling that over. So we'll go to the next one here, right, that is that which was reading for information. I need to have really a 5. So same situation. And this will definitely vary depending on the job. So all that I would do here is now I'm going to go for my reading for information, and I'm going to do the same thing. You can decide whether or not you want to do the lowest level. That's your choice. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But you would drag over, right? I want this unit. And these are basically a way of establishing the prerequisite core knowledge that you need, that these students will need to have to approach this career pathway. They do have exempted pretests just like everywhere else in PLATO, but it's a way of orienting it to a specific goal. So essentially what I would do with this particular career pathway is I would match to what the parameters are here. So I'm just going to do this quickly. Is let's do the locating information, and I'm going to pull that one over. Right, and again, this is really up to you how much you want all at once. And let's do listening for understanding. And not all of these categories have all of the levels, but at least you're going to have access to whatever components may be of value to your students. So that's the first phase of using the work keys piece to help establish the foundational skills. So we said there are 3 levels, right? Basic skills. What are the key requirements for being equipped in this pathway? This would be our way of taking those out and putting them together in a logical way, because for some careers you may not need level 5, it may be 3 and 4 that you decide to use. So first job was, what's the career or what's the pathway? And going over to the profile.careerkeytrain.com and having the opportunity to locate that. So the same thing would work if I was going to go to health science and I wanted to do, let's say, nurse specialist. Whatever it was, same situation. This one goes actually above what the work keys modules are set up to do. So it goes up to a 6, but at least we're having what is necessary to equip these learners. But same model, we would go back to our custom course and we drag over the things that are relevant. So that's one stage of the game. The second is, what pieces would be relevant to start to support the career area literacy and the employability skills, right? Because this is talking about foundational skills, key math, language arts, reading, applied technology, listening skills. I want to get into where we may have some relevancy for, let's say, teamwork or collaboration or something, along those lines. So what can I do? I could learn a little bit more about this particular career because there is a lot of really great information here. And so I may decide that there is some pieces that I want to include over others. So just don't forget that there's more than just the matrix here. But I'm going to filter my results by the CTE courses. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to start looking at the career explorations course. While this is not specific to the hospitality pathway, it is a really rich resource to getting the student oriented to perhaps goal setting, working with your college, or assessing your college readiness, all of these things that may be of interest. So what could I do? I could pull the whole unit over. I could also make a new folder that says, let's say something like, I'm going to label this here. Let's say career ready, and pull over the pieces that may be of interest for this case. Okay, right? It's all about what's of value. And maybe I want something else from, I know we have a really great course called Essential Career Skills, but it may be hiding in a little bit different spot. There we go. So I know that I also want to include a couple modules from here, right? I'm just looking through the books. Okay, this I want. So all I do is pull that over into the unit folder that I'm looking for, right? So now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's pick one more thing in the people skills here. This is really as creative and as unique as you want it. if you take the time and make something like this, it is something that will be shared across your account. So there's no reason that 4 or 5 people have to make the same pathway. If that's something that one location, oh, I already did the hospitality one, can you do the health one? And someone else is interested in the transportation logistics one. I mean, this is a collaborative event, but I just wanted you to be aware of that. So I have this particular unit that I've made, right? These are some of our employability goals. It also, you could, I mean, really anything that you think would be relevant from this particular library, right? Let's say time, task, resource management. So do I want to have a pre-test? I could. So I can add that at the unit level right here. I want to add a pre-test or a post-test or any external things. So if, for example, you're partnering with a particular employer or set of employers and you want to link the student over to their website or their materials for that website, you could do that, or an example application, or all sorts of things that you may have as various digital files that you want to consolidate and put in one place. Those can be added in here. So it's really up to you if you want to break these into 2 courses or 3 courses, or you want to mix and match all across. That's really your call. But probably the 2 courses I would work with most is the essential career skills, which is right now in version 2, and they have a lot of really valuable pieces of information, I think, that would fit pretty much any career area that you choose. And then the other one was the career explorations. And this one just happens to live in what they classify as the elective. I'm not sure why it lives there. And then the initial career explorations lives in the filter of the C2E courses. So that's why I kind of was jumping between those 2. So if you're working with most of the career explorations, that's where you'll find that one. And then with the essential career skills, it just happens to be filtered by electives. Okay? So I think of those 2 courses as really helping to target that middle ground, right? Of I'm employable, I understand what it's like to work and what may be required of me in the working world. And it doesn't mean that it's specific right now to hospitality, but it's essential to be a quality candidate. We work with a lot of our customers who are working in that career pathways, building them and collaborating with employers. It's as equally important to have qualified candidates who are equipped to go into some of the training programs that they want, as it is that they know all about the health sciences, or they all know about hospitality. If they can't do those basic skills, then it isn't as productive. All right, so we've got the second layer, which was employability skills and career area literacy. What is it like to be an employee? But now we want to get more specific. So in hospitality pathway, we could go in a couple different directions. The first is there is a hospitality career cluster course, which is called Profiles of Hospitality and Tourism. So I could use the whole course, I could use part of that course. Again, the same model applies. This is really up to you how much you want to mix and match. And again, you could break this into hospitality pathway level 1, hospitality pathway level 2, I mean, whatever you dream. But what I think is really key here is that it doesn't have to be, segmented in its own unit. I want to stick food service over here. I mean, whatever is really most engaging for your learners, because it's when they start getting into this type of material that they really start perking up, because this is about what I want to do. So now it's all kind of enmeshed together, so the student isn't seeing this as, oh, I have to do math, or I have to do reading, or I have to do, a bit of science, or I have to do, accounting. Well, no, but this is all the combination of the recipe for this job that you want. So you have, from all of the career areas, you do have what we call a principles course. So I'm going to pull up here for you a list by cluster. So this may be helpful. the different career courses, and I can make sure that we get you guys a copy of this too, but it will list the different courses in the career collection by that focus. So when we went to hospitality and tourism, there is also a culinary arts, there's a nutrition and wellness, and you may even decide to expand that into, could be human services, it could be into business communication. I mean, there's a lot of cross and multiple career clusters that kind of overlap depending on the ultimate job, right? Because we picked a travel agent, so finance, right? All of those things could be relevant. So there is a logic that the principles courses are the first introduction to that area. And then other courses that are within those clusters are going to start getting deeper into those concepts, right? So your entrepreneurship or business information management, those are going to be a step beyond understanding what that particular concept is of that career cluster. The good news is that all of these career courses are laid out very much like what you're used to. They are going to have this style, they're going to have mastery tests, they're going to have pre-tests, they're going to have post-tests, they're going to have all the features that you're accustomed to, and they are also going to be very fresh when we look at the whole PLATO library collection. These are very new. They're going to be current with sort of the marketplace today. So even though you may look at game development or you look at something that's more in some of the STEM areas, don't worry, that's going to be relevant to the career that they are pursuing even presently. So the CTE courses are also going to offer something that I think is extremely critical for adult learners, which is vocabulary. And one of the things that I presented on at the workforce conference was about being able to talk the talk, right? It's not just that I have the skills that I need for the job, but I also know the vocabulary of that job. Each of the modules of the career courses, we have a collection of all the vocabulary that's used within all of the semesters. So if they did want to have that offline, they can. But these are all as a resource for the student so that when they're in that course, if they have a place to go to look that up, to get that help, they also have a dictionary here, the things that are brought up so that when they are going in that interview, when they are going into the higher level of training, that they have the vocabulary to be a quality candidate. That was another feature that was kind of the best practices, was not just about being able to read, it's having that vocabulary in that career area so that, hey, I can talk about management, I can talk about what a franchise is, I understand affiliation, these keywords that are really relevant to that job. And so this is really the purpose of a lot of the principles courses, is starting to introduce that vocabulary, and then we'll get a little bit deeper depending on the focus area. Much like your other PLATO courses and content, you may have lesson activities or other interactions that are part of it. Things that include all of the different item types. So we saw like a constructed response style response. We would also have here, your drag and drop. So students are getting exposure to all of the different ways that they may need to interact with the content. And if you've ever been through job training at a new job, you'll recall that you often have to, after you get hired, you may have to take tests, you may have to sit in for some type of orientation, and the familiarity that students get within the career courses starts to get them prepared for that. The biggest thing that a lot of students I worked with struggled with was actually their OSHA certification for their job place, and the hazardous chemicals or whatever was the prerequisite for them to sort of go into their actual job placement, because they weren't familiar with sort of this learning style. And so this was a way to get them introduced to, okay, I'm going to answer questions, I'm going to learn a new concept. And so this is a great way of kind of warming them up to that experience. So I just want to give you a brief taste how these are structured, what they're like, how they're doing the sort of check for understanding. You do get the answer key kind of style that you also have when you preview that content for a test. So it is definitely something you could use as an instructor as well as a learner. Mastery test works the same way here, right? I'm going to have that 80% proficiency. That's still the expectation. And I'm going to drag that one over here. And I may have something that's a little newer for you, which are the unit activities and discussions. So if you haven't seen those before, don't worry, it's not something to make your life more difficult. It's a way of giving the student an opportunity for expanded, open reflection, open application, or more of a project. As you may notice, just like with anything with customization, if I don't want it, I don't have to include it. But it's definitely worth knowing what they're like and what they're about. So a discussion, if you see those pop up, just as the name implies, is a gradable opportunity for the student to reflect on a question and for that to be threaded, if you want. Multiple students who are doing the same one can exchange with each other. But it's ultimately supposed to be something you would look at and you would say, yes, looks good, doesn't look good, really working on some of their writing skills, right, in this career area. So a discussion is something that we would have available already within a course that you could include. You can also add your own, right? So maybe this is very particular to your region or to an employer. You can add your own type of graded discussion. The second piece that you may not have encountered before is a unit activity. So a unit activity is much more of a project that is part of each unit of a career course. And this is going to be a resource where the student isn't just going through an online activity, but is actually going the next step to apply that in usually more of a project or a more expanded response. Okay, so maybe do a little research, do a little writing. It could be make a PowerPoint, it could be write an essay. I mean, there's a lot of things that it could ask for, and then it has how you should be evaluated. Some of these are larger scope than what you may feel comfortable presenting for a student in a pathway. Some of them may fit really perfectly to give them some hands-on experience. So you do have one for each unit in each course. And so what would happen with what we call a digital Dropbox form is they would click that. You saw I downloaded it as a Word document. I would be able to open it up, fill it in, do whatever I needed to do. And then as a student, they would have the ability to upload that back. So there's no paper that's required. It's kind of like doing an email attachment, but you don't have to have the email world involved. It's that I'm going to upload it back, and then you would see the prompt to grade it. Okay. So those are your kind of two newer pieces that could be part of the content. Again, you have the option to add in your own if you want. So one of the pieces, as I mentioned about OSHA or any type of specialized training or particular things that an employer could be looking for or an application, is this is very much designed to help you make this very relevant. So if you want to put some real world examples, you have a project in mind, you have some materials ready to go that are in PDF or in a Word document or whatever format. That's where you can put that right in there. They're going to see it. And it's going to look just like any other activity that would be listed as a unit activity or a Dropbox activity. So lots of ways that could go, lots of variation there. But that's the best practice that I find is make sure that this is, a pathway that's leading to somewhere. And by including some external pieces, it makes it more exciting. A lot of instructors do like to have the website. So There is one, CNA is really popular in a lot of the programs they work with. So they decided that adding a little video at the beginning about what it's like to be a nurse or what it's like to be a CNA physician in an organization, so that students were actually able to vet the career pathway that they were interested in and decide, this is really what I want to do. And so they had a little bit more of a tangible understanding of, okay, this is what it's like, this is how it works, and this isn't for me, or yes, this is very much for me. So these CTE courses really allow the student to get that exposure. So you have those 3 layers, as I mentioned earlier. You have foundational skills, which is you can do through the work keys courses or any of the content that's in your library. So with allied health, pull a little bit from biology. That's okay. You can pull a little from the chemistry course. If you need to add something from the math course, right, for dosage and calculations prerequisite. Those are all things that you could kind of assemble as you see fit. And of course, we can help you. David can assist with that, or if that's an area of focus, we're not saying here's everything you need to know, go and learn it, but things to kind of consider as you're gathering materials. You have your course up here with your applied math, and then you start getting into your career readiness layer of things. The essential career skills, you would have your career explorations, and probably some of these principles courses. Because as we get beyond those, and as I showed you here with our CTE collection, is that, let's say, because we are in hospitality, so let's travel agent, and we're booking food tours. So I want to know a little bit more about culinary arts so I can talk the talk. So what I would be able to do is come down within my courses collection and pull over some of the pieces there. So maybe I want to know a little bit more about, let's say, following recipes. And I want that included because that's an expansion here. And then I want to know a bit more about the food service industry or professionals, right? Whatever it is that may lend itself to this job. Is that I can just mix and match what I need. And all of them are going to have that same kind of flow. They're going to have all of that nice vocabulary that we talked about, right? That students may need to brush up on. So all of those pieces are in play. So however you want to assemble that, how you think that would make sense for the learner to follow. The big piece with the courses is as much or as little in that custom course as you want. You may decide to do them in multiple stages. They do not have to be in any particular order. This is just for the sake of our demonstration today. You could even expand entrepreneurship and stick it in applied math if you wanted to. I mean, that's really your call. But all of those things really let you assemble it in a comfortable way. And if I finish this, and my colleagues across the state say, oh, that's really cool, could I use it too? Absolutely. By the way, save your work. But when you are done, if you want to make this public, make this visible, then you publish it. And that means it is not in a draft form anymore. So if you are not sure that it has everything you want, or you want to keep working, save and continue working on it. You can come back to it later, keep chipping away at it. When you are completely done, you would publish. But if I ran out of time today, I can save and close. Save that, tidy that up. And the question will be, okay, Leslie, how do I get back to it? I want to keep working on it again. So if I was to log in and I'd be back at home, and I want to pick up where I left off, back to my courses, go back to my custom course builder, and the ones that you've done save and close are going to live here. What do I do if I want to keep working on it? I travel over here to the pencil, and it'll bring me right back to edit that course, right? And I still go back and do my filters. If I had published it, it is now going to be part of your curriculum library. So I didn't want to publish mine because I don't want that to be kept forever. But what you're seeing up here, all of these pieces are all custom courses that someone has made at some point. Okay, so naming conventions are very important, and they may not have been important in the past, but it does, really make it easy or difficult to find what you have made or what you've shared. So I always encourage you to label things really well, so that we know what they're for. Here's mobile friendly version of this, or I made this, or I like to usually put my last name in brackets and that I made it in 2017. I mean, whatever you want to use, but this is where it's going to end up. So if you needed to say, hey, okay, this is now published. I've made this one, this nice uh, hospitality pathway is ready for anybody else to use. You want to peek at it, tell me whether you like it. It's going to live here in Browse Curriculum. So if you want to take a look, and it's also going to live in the course catalog. So if you know about enrolling students, getting them started in the program, those are going to sit in your custom courses. So whatever you made or labeled, those are going to all sit up here. Same process that you worked with before. But you would be making that curriculum kind of in advance and customizing that. And then this is where it ends up. Right, so I'm giving you a second to digest. You may have had questions as we've gone through, but there are really many different directions that you can go with this. If you want to augment or entice a student to maybe learn a bit more about their career cluster that they want to pursue that pathway, aside from making a nice full-fledged pathway course like we looked at today, they are also available in your flex assignments. So when I go to flex assignments and I want to say, oh, a lot of the students in this class are really keen on a particular areas, what I can do is I can come down here, I can choose my subject, I can choose a CTE course. Maybe they're working on their GED prep presently, and this is a way of kind of keeping them engaged, and say, hey, I know that you're really interested in some of the child development pieces. I'm going to just drop in the basics of parenting and positive work ethics related to that, just to kind of keep you on track, keep you motivated that this is something that you're really passionate about, helping working on some of your reading ability. So it's really something you can do to tempt them, but I just wanted you to be aware that it is also available in flex assignments. But if you're going to make a pathway, you're going to do a lot of the work we described earlier, do that in the customization of the course. If it's really just that nugget of, hey, that looks really cool, how do I keep my student coming back? Maybe this is an opportunity to say, hey, if you do this preparatory work, here's something I'm going to turn on for you and make available. That's worked really well with some of the programs I've partnered with, because this is the enticement. They like this. This excites them, and that's their sort of way to keep them coming back. So, hey, we're interested in drafting, and that's something you really like. Okay, I'm going to turn that on for you. But if you're not performing within your GED work, then I'm not going to do that. So have a lot of flexibility to provide that response. Okay. So I am going to turn it over to any questions that you may have. I know I gave a lot of information today, so hopefully I can, if there are questions, that we can address those for you.
We actually did have one question. Barbara was wondering if, she said she has several ESL students who are seeking employment within the public school cafeteria area. And so she was wondering if there's a particular ESL level that these students should be in before starting these types of courses.
It's a great question. So the career courses are designed to start about at the 7th grade reading level and above. They do have that read aloud feature. So if I'm just going to pop really quickly back where we were. So they do have that as a support. They also will have some of the translation tools. So they have that as coaching. But if they were to do um, if they were to do one of these, I definitely want to have at least a about seventh grade reading level as part of this. The essential career skills and the career explorations, they could be a little bit lower, but they will have the translate piece here as well. They do have the read aloud, so I think they would definitely be able to navigate if they're a little shaky at the seventh grade, but definitely that would be a prerequisite I would recommend.
Great. Thank you so much. That was really the only question we had. There were a lot of comments just saying thank you for all the great information. Everybody found that to be very informative. So thank you very much, Leslie, for all of that. And thank you all for participating in our final webinar of the day. Once again, just as a reminder, this will be archived on our website, www.nmdelt.org. That way you can come back to this because, like Leslie said, this was a whole lot of information, so you can come back and rewatch this at your leisure. So with that said, this concludes the webinar, and we hope that you all have a wonderful day, and thank you so much again for participating.